Whilst Omolara and Tolani were rehearsing, they went into a very heated argument that resulted in a serious fight. No one knew why they were fighting, and all efforts to reconcile them proved abortive. All Tolani screamed was that she was going to kill Omolara, but no one knew exactly the reason why. Once upon a time, there lived two friends named Tolani and Omolara. Tolani and Omolara were best of friends who met at the local market where their mothers sold food items. Omolara and Tolani were extremely good dancers and well known in the village for their unique dance style. One day, the village chief announced the chosen date of an upcoming festival, calling on dancers, saying that a competition will be held a day to the festival to choose the best dancers who would dance for the king and his guests at the festival. Tolani and Omolara were extremely excited as they knew how well they danced. They began to rehearse as they both wanted to be chosen to dance before the king. Over the years, a few maidens have found wealthy husbands whilst dancing in the palace for the king, as the king's guests always comprised of wealthy young men who used the festival as an opportunity to find a wife. Omolara and Tolani rehearsed like their lives depended on it, and most nights, Omolara would sleep over at Tolani's hut so as to enable them rehearse deep into the night. One night, after a long and tiring rehearsal, Tolani slept off like a log of wood and woke up in the middle of the night looking for her best friend Omolara. She searched the whole hut, but Omolara was nowhere to be found. Just when she was about stepping out of her hut to search for her friend, she saw Omolara emerging from the bushes. She asked her what she was doing there, and Omolara laughed, saying that she only went to ease herself, and they both laughed and went back to bed. The next morning, Tolani and her friend were heading to the market when Tolani's father gave them two beautiful necklaces. They were both excited as they thanked him and headed straight for the market. All through the day, Omolara could not stop telling Tolani how lucky she was to have a man like her father, and Tolani could not help but smile as she thanked the gods for giving her such a loving father. Omolara, on the other hand, never knew her own father, as she was told that her father never wanted her to be born. He left her mother shortly after he heard that she was pregnant, and no one saw him ever again. One night, whilst Omolara and Tolani were rehearsing, they went into a very heated argument that resulted in a serious fight. No one knew why they were fighting, and all efforts to reconcile them proved abortive. All Tolani screamed was that she was going to kill Omolara, but no one knew exactly the reason why. Omolara, unable to stand what was happening, decided to head back home late that night. Tolani, fuming in anger, sat in front of her hut as she watched Omolara leave in anger. Everyone was so confused, including Tolani's father and stepmother, who had never seen Tolani and her friend so angry at each other before. A few minutes later, Tolani decided to run after her friend, but returned shortly afterwards, fidgeting as she rushed off to bed. The next morning, loud screams were heard as the villagers realized that Omolara was violently killed in the village river. Her mother was so gruesome, and everyone pointed accusing fingers at Tolani, who threatened to kill Omolara, to the hearing of the villagers. Tolani began to shake in fear as everyone looked at her with accusing eyes. Not long afterwards, Tolani was summoned before the village chief as the whole village gathered to hear her side of the story. The village chief asked her why she killed her best friend, but Tolani looked at the chief and didn't utter a word. As she was there, Omolara's mother approached her in tears, laying curses at her for killing her only daughter. Tolani paid no mind to everyone as she remained silent. The whole village began to murmur as they could not believe how Tolani would be so heartless as to kill her own best friend. What was more shocking was the fact that Tolani did not feel any remorse for what had happened. The village chief ordered that Tolani be locked up in the village dungeon till she tells them the reason why she violently killed her best friend. For days, Tolani remained locked up in the dungeon with no food and water, as the king ordered his guards not to provide her with food or water till she tells them what happened. As the days went by, the villagers grew impatient, especially Omolara's mother, who could not stand knowing that her daughter's murderer was still alive. They gathered in front of the chief's hut, requesting that Tolani be killed for the crime that she had committed. The chief, on seeing all the people gathered in front of his hut, announced that Tolani would be judged at first light the next morning. Everyone dispersed, waiting for the first cock to crow. By morning, the whole village gathered in front of the village chief's hut, eager to see what will happen. They screamed murderer at the top of their voices, and when the chief sent his guards to go fetch Tolani from the dungeon, the guards returned saying that Tolani was nowhere to be found. Everyone opened their mouths in shock, including the chief, who asked how she escaped, and the guards revealed that they had no idea as the dungeon door was never opened. Everyone began to murmur as they could not explain how Tolani escaped from the village dungeon. The chief sent out all his guards to go in search of Tolani, and the guards searched the whole village, but she was nowhere to be found. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, but there was no sign of Tolani. The village was in constant turmoil, with rumors circulating about Tolani's mysterious disappearance. Some believed she had used dark magic to escape, whilst others thought she might have fled to a distant village. During this time, the friendship between Tolani and Omolara was the talk of the village. Many wondered what had caused the sudden rift between the once inseparable friends. Omolara's mother, filled with grief and anger, became extremely sick, as the hurt was too much for her to bear. Omolara was not only her only daughter, but the only family she had left. Tolani's father then decided to pay Omolara's mother a visit. As Tolani's father entered Omolara's mother's hut, he could feel the heavy atmosphere of sorrow. He began to recount the story of Tolani and Omolara's friendship. He spoke of the joyful times when the two friends danced together at the local market and practiced their unique dance style for the upcoming festival. He also shared the confusion surrounding their sudden falling out and the tragic events that led to Omolara's death. He went on to ask Omolara's mother if she ever told her about anything suspicious, and Omolara's mother told him that her daughter never mentioned anything suspicious to her, as she was also puzzled to hear about the fight between Omolara and her best friend Tolani. As she spoke, tears gushed down her face. She could not fathom the idea that her daughter's best friend killed her own daughter, and Tolani's father assured her that he would do everything within his power to uncover the truth behind Omolara's death, as well as Tolani's disappearance. As the days went by, the village chief decided to consult the gods regarding the death of Omolara and the disappearance of Tolani. He consulted with the mouthpiece of the gods, who performed a series of rituals to communicate with the spiritual realm. After days of consultation, the mouthpiece of the gods gathered the elders and villagers to share the revelation from the gods. He explained that the spirits had revealed a hidden truth that needed to be unraveled to bring peace back to their village. He said that the gods revealed to him that Tolani was still in her cell in the dungeon but was protected and provided for by the spirit of her friend Omolara. Everyone opened their mouths in shock as they could not understand why Omolara's spirit would shield the one who killed her. It was then that the mouthpiece of the gods revealed that Tolani did not kill her best friend. The gods revealed to him that Omolara was killed by Tolani's stepmother, who found out that Omolara was having an affair with her husband and was also pregnant for him. The night when Omolara and Tolani had the big fight, Tolani found out that her best friend was having an affair with her own father. She confronted Omolara, who could not deny the affair. It was then that everything began to make more sense to Tolani, who began to recall strange things that had happened in the past, like the necklace gift her father gave to Omolara and herself, as well as the night that she woke up and couldn't find Omolara in bed. This angered Tolani greatly, as she could not believe that her best friend would do such a terrible thing to her. Their argument escalated, and in the heat of the moment, Tolani threatened to expose the secret. Unknowing to Tolani, her stepmother was lurking in the corner, listening to their conversation. Omolara, fearing the consequences of her actions being revealed, decided to leave and go back home late that night. Little did she know that she was being followed by Tolani's stepmother, who was now filled with rage. After a few minutes of walking, they got to the village river, where Omolara decided to take a swim to calm her nerves. Tolani's stepmother, in that moment, decided to confront Omolara, who pleaded for mercy. However, consumed by jealousy and anger, Tolani's stepmother used a sharp knife to stab Omolara continuously till she died. Tolani's father, hearing this revelation, was shocked and devastated. He could not believe what his selfish actions had resulted to. The villagers, in that moment, shifted their focus to Tolani's stepmother, who confessed to her crime. Tolani, still locked up in the dungeon, was unaware of the developments outside. The guards approached the cell once again, and to their surprise, they saw Tolani sitting in the corner of the cell. She was extremely weak, and the guards quickly informed the village chief about her current state. The chief, realizing the gravity of the situation, ordered Tolani's immediate release from the dungeon. As she stepped into the daylight, the villagers, who had been calling for her blood, now looked at her with a mix of emotions. Tolani's father rushed to her side as he embraced her, asking for her forgiveness. The truth had been unveiled, and the weight that Tolani carried for so long had finally been lifted. She heard of how her stepmother killed Omolara out of jealousy and has also been banished from the village. It was at this point that Tolani busted out in tears as the pain of losing her best friend hit her so hard. Despite being angry with Omolara, Tolani missed her best friend and wished she was still alive. In the midst of sorrow, Omolara's mother, though grieving for her daughter, approached Tolani to hug and comfort her, as she acknowledged that Tolani had been a victim too, trapped in a web of deceit and betrayal. That was how Tolani was vindicated for the crime that she did not commit. The lesson to be learned from this story is that we should be careful of the things we say, as one careless word can put us in a lot of trouble. Also learn not to act in the heat of jealousy, as most often than not, we end up regretting our actions taken in the heat of anger. Be slow to judgment, as hasty decisions can also lead to their consequences. I hope you enjoyed the story. Like, subscribe and leave a comment. It helps us grow our channel. I'll see you in our next story. Bye.